Hello, everybody. You're listening to the Big Chill Podcast. This is episode 876, World Cup Round 2 Recap. Hello, Big Chillians, and welcome back to the Big Chill Podcast. I'm Frank, joined as always with Eddie, where I'm sure we're going to get on some England discussions. We just finished round 2 of the World Cup. But first, how's it going? You seem to be refreshed, cool, energized. Look at you. You're about as red as a tomato, as you would say.
I'm literally sweating just sitting here. It's disgusting. I had a nightmare last night, too. I woke up at like 5 a.m. and it was so hot. And I was, oh my God, why is it? It cannot be, even in this heat wave, it cannot be this temperature at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then I realized I have the air conditioning unit in my bedroom, which obviously has this sort of exhaust tube that goes out the window. And in the middle of the night, that had slipped back inside and was just pumping the hot air in my direction. So I do think about 5 o'clock this morning, the temperature in my room might have been approaching 50 degrees. It was awful.
But at the same time, it was cooling. So it was cooling and heating at the same time.
Yeah. And just very efficiently contributing towards climate change. So that's perfect.
Nice.
I did my bit this morning.
Yikes.
But yeah, how are you doing? I'm sure not quite as hot.
Nice and cool in the basement.
Yeah.
You should invest in a basement. They're great.
Yeah. Yeah, or just move to a country that has air conditioning everywhere. That would also be... I have to admit, I've been very positive about the Fiat Topolino. Oh boy. You get inside that thing in...
Air conditioning doesn't work so much?
No. In 40-degree heat. And on top of it, too, it's, the roof is glass. It's, I think if you would generously call it a moon roof, it is... You could just, I mean, honestly, if I needed to cut to make weight for an upcoming fight tomorrow or something, maybe I should start renting this out to boxers and MMA fighters and wrestlers ahead of their weigh-ins, because I think I could easily lose 15 pounds in an hour in the Topolino.
I mean, so for our American listeners, 40 degrees would be just about, I think, like 105.
Yeah.
Fahrenheit. So yeah. I mean, at that point, like, this is what I always say, because this is obviously, I know those temperatures very well, having lived in Arizona for a while. Like, when you are outside and there's a breeze, or alternatively, if you're in a car and your windows are open and it's a breeze, it at that point is not a cooling breeze. It's more like a convection oven breeze, where it's actually kind of making you hotter because the air is so hot that it's just circulating around like hot air into your face, that it's actually like cooking you still. It's not cooling you at that point. So I can't even imagine that. I mean, the Topolino must be awful. Like you're not cooling it down by having a breeze flow through.
A little bit. Look, I'll take a breeze over no breeze. I'll say that. And right now, that's one of the big problems in the current heat wave that we have here, is there's absolutely no wind. And it's pretty humid for here as well at the moment. So we've got a decent amount of humidity, absolutely no breeze, and it's hot. It's just the trifecta of terrible weather conditions. But yeah.
How did you play paddle?
I think the movement was a lot less than usual.
Was it under the one covered?
Yeah, it was covered, but it's still really warm. You're still in a glass box, and the sun still gets through a little bit. So it was pretty warm. But I mean, usually in most of the games I play, it's sort of tennis rules. You're supposed to change ends after 2 games, and most of the time when I play, we just change ends at the end of a set. So you kind of just get through the set and then change ends, have a drink. This was very much, we change ends after every 2 games. Everyone stopped to drink, like towel themselves down. It was not super
the sweat
pleasant.
On the court must have been gross.
Well, it's like a carpety material, so you don't get a buildup of sweat. So there's at least got that going.
Underneath, it's gross.
Underneath it's gross. The glass, one guy did just
Oh,
I played against the guy who I have previously affectionately referred to as the fat fuck, and at one moment, in an attempt I was against him though, so it was fine. He went to get a ball and then just went full speed into the glass, and it was like a cartoon. He left his sort of sweaty imprint on the glass as he went away. He was not a pretty sight in any way whatsoever, but yeah, it
it's
did.
like Along Came Polly with Philip Seymour Hoffman when they're playing
Yes.
basketball and he like runs into the guy and his sweat just goes everywhere.
Exactly, but without the charm of yelling out, like, "white chocolate" and stuff as he was playing Paddle. Maybe
If he had yelled out white chocolate when he did it, that would have been amazing.
maybe
Or
I'll
like
start doing
white
that.
Rafa.
Yeah, maybe I'll start doing that on my smashes. Maybe I'll just start throwing those in. That's the other thing that's tough. I mean, the impact, and I mean, you see it in tennis, sort of when I growing up and playing and stuff, that when it was warmer, you see the ball moves faster. You do see that. But in paddle, I have to say, you see it way more, that just all the smashes are going out of the court suddenly just because with the heat, the ball is just moving that much quicker, bouncing that much more. So you do see the impact of the actual conditions on how you play.
Before we get to, I guess, World Cup round 2 roundup, any other sports topics you wanna get to first?
I mean, we it's obviously the news has kind of been there and passed slightly, but for a long time, we spoke about the speculation surrounding Serena Williams' return to tennis, the fact that she
Yes.
re-entered the drugs protocol and but claimed that she wasn't coming back, and now she's coming back. She's playing doubles with further speculation that she may eventually return to singles, likely in the
I
hard court season.
I thought she had already entered singles. I thought I saw an
Has
Instagram
she?
post that she entered Wimbledon as a wild card? Was that fake news? It could have been fake news.
Oh no, yeah, yeah, you are correct. I
Okay.
missed that. Yeah, yeah.
As a wild card, which is unlucky for that one person who might feel like they have a good Wimbledon run in them, and then their first draw as a wild card is Serena, who's I mean, who knows? Maybe she won't be as fit, and obviously she's not gonna be peak Serena Williams, but still an unfortunate wild card draw. You don't know what you're gonna get with having to play Serena.
Yeah, I think I would take it. Like, I think
I
it's
bet
a
you
cool
would.
story. No, but, like, I think you'd say because I mean, you're playing a wild card, so it's gonna be, high seed. So it's gonna be someone thinking, "Okay, is this theoretically easier than any other random wild card? Possibly." But, wild cards are usually reserved for players returning from injury or, so
Yeah.
maybe like if it's Wimbledon, it might be a British player, but who's slipped a little bit in the rankings, so they wanna get them into the draw. So it's usually not a complete gimme. And I think I would rather play a 44-year-old who hasn't played a singles match since 2019. I think if you told me that's my opponent in the first round of Wimbledon, I think I'd feel like the draw had been pretty kind to me. Like, and you're guaranteed too, if you think about it, you're guaranteed to be playing center court because they're gonna give her center court. So you're gonna get especially thinking of there's also a heat wave in the UK. So you're gonna have closed roof, nicest conditions possible rather than playing on an outside court in the heat at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So to be honest with you, I'd be hoping if I were like whoever it is in the top 5, top 10, I'd be hoping that I got Serena Williams.
I bet you that's what they were all saying in 2019 at the Masters when Tiger Woods showed up.
Not quite the same. I think it'd be like if Tiger if right now you had to go play match play and Tiger Woods did show up. I think Rory McIlroy would be feeling pretty good about himself. I think that would be, you know. Speaking of the heat wave though and sports reacting to it, obviously some racing was canceled today in the UK just because the conditions are too warm. So it did get me thinking what would happen if, similarly hot conditions had happened 1 week earlier for Royal Ascot. Would they have
Oh,
possibly postponed racing? But in France, in order to kind of keep the racing calendar going, they shifted everything. So the racing today started at 9 o'clock in the morning. So like,
now you almost had me. If you had said it was like a night race at Royal Ascot, That would have been kind of cool. I would have been in for that. If they're like, first race is 7 p.m.
I don't know. I mean, they could do that. I don't think Ascot has the
Lights.
setup necessary for the lights for all of the track to do that, is my guess. But it would be interesting. What would so if we'd gone there and they said racing starts tomorrow at 9 a.m., you would have been disappointed?
Yeah. I mean, what time do we have to fucking get up? Like 5 in the morning?
Yeah, but imagine how great
Oh, God.
10 hours of the stag would be.
Oh, God.
Just imagine the chaos that could
So
ensue. How many Jaeger bombs could you have between 1:30 in the afternoon and midnight?
Oh my God. Yeah, I couldn't even imagine. I mean, the stag has taken down a lot of our participating members of our party over the years. I I shudder to think what it could have done to some of them with an extra 7 hours. Or actually, let me phrase that, what we would have done with them once they went down and we still had 6 more hours to go.
Yeah, I mean, one person had such a bad experience on the stag that he had to then go and live on a submarine. So he had to remove himself from the surface of the earth. That's how badly his stag experience went.
I mean, at that point, they're probably gonna have to have, like, a little holding room where, like, you just put people who are done, just put
I
them over there and then pick them up at the end of the night.
I think they do have that. That's the porta potties. That's all those are. They'd be just closing a few people in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would not have been fun if it were super early, and I don't think you can even do that for Royal Ascot because there are so many people attending that just the ability for those people to get there that early, like, are there enough trains that are leaving? Because, like, you have to think about there are people going to Royal Ascot over the course of 4 to 5 hours. People are coming in waves. So you can't really do that if the racing starts at 9 and people aren't gonna start getting trains at 5 in the morning. It'd be tough.
It'd be tough. I mean, I think you couldn't make the decision the day before, but I think if a week out you said, "Hey, look, the first race is now 9:30 in the morning." Yeah, for sure, that would cause a lot of chaos, and there would definitely be especially to hospitality, where part of that package would be, "No, no, no, come to the
Yeah.
races 4 hours early and have lunch and drinks and stuff," and all of a sudden, it's like, "Do you wanna be there at 4 a.m. having a super early breakfast?" But
How's that picnic treating you at 5:30 in the morning?
and I guess from a hospitality perspective, the offer isn't as great, but you would just say, "Now we'll do things after the races." So before you got here 4 hours early, now you can stay 4 hours late and there's no more racing, and, I mean, I think it'd be messy. There'd be a lot of very, very drunk people.
So messy.
Security would be
Ascot does not want that.
no. No, I mean, it's the logistics of it would present a huge number of challenges, but realistically, with the way the weather is trending in Europe in June, things like this are going to have to be a consideration at
Yeah.
some point as to
Put the lights up. Put them up now.
yeah, yeah, especially because, with horse racing, it's not as simple as like, "Oh, Roland Garros, hey, if you find it too hot, it's your choice to play." You also have the animal welfare component here of it's not as if
Yeah.
you can go and speak to, you know, a horse and say, "Do you feel up to it today? It is pretty warm." Or you think you've got the mile 4 in you or not?
Stradivarius, can you bring it out tonight or what?
Yes. Yeah. It makes it a little bit trickier. On that note, do we move on to the World Cup and England's performance yesterday against Ghana to kick things
Yeah,
off?
actually, real quick though, I guess while we're on the heat wave talking point, and obviously we're going to dedicate, I think, a large chunk of this discussion to England's second round against Ghana. We had discussed previously in our last episode the hydration breaks and whether they're real or not real, whether it's just a gimmick for
I mean, we know they're real.
American television to get more commercials in and things like that.
Yeah, look, I think people are being a
We know
bit
they're real,
dumb.
but are they really required? I guess
Yeah.
is
So I'm fine with people booing it and stuff and kind of being opposed, and players have come out and said they don't really like them. And I think that's really a discussion to be had with the players. The fans were sort of ancillary to that. If players feel like in certain conditions they absolutely need those water breaks. The thing is, I don't think you need a structured water break in order to ensure that players are properly hydrated. I think there are enough opportunities within a game for players to be able to drink water without having to require a full stoppage for 3 minutes each half, and basically turn it, instead of halves, turn the game into quarters. Like, I don't think that's necessary. However, I do think the people losing their minds when, oh, why are we having the hydration break in the England-Ghana match? It's raining. It's not that hot. I do understand that once you put fixed hydration breaks in, you kind of have to say we're going to do it every match, because otherwise we've seen consistently that it disrupts the flow of games and momentum can shift before and after hydration breaks. So it would be a little bit unfair to say, oh, you're the team who played in hot conditions and you were really on the front foot. Then the hydration break came in, and then you couldn't quite get the momentum back. Whereas this other team benefited from playing in cooler conditions, didn't have the hydration break, were able to maintain that momentum throughout the first half, and were winning 3-0 at halftime. Whereas maybe things would have been a little bit different if they played in the same, like, and obviously you can't ensure the same conditions because you're playing in different parts, like different countries, different regions of those countries. So they're hotter, cooler, more humid, more altitude, whatever. But I do think I think having the 3-minute break fixed, I understand why FIFA has said that that's in every match, regardless of the conditions. Fine.
I
The only thing I will say, I
I
think a
agree.
little bit.
I was say I agree with you, but then FIFA went ahead and took away the hydration break in the France-Iraq match because they were already behind schedule. So that's what bothers me, is like, it's super important and we're just going to be consistent. But then, like, we're not going to be really consistent if things aren't going exactly how we want them. We'll just won't be consistent anymore. Like,
Well, those
it
were pretty
I,
unique circumstances where you'd had a 2.5 hour delay or whatever to the match.
but how is that fair though? To like, I
Well,
agree with you. I think if you're just going to have them and have them be consistent, so that way everyone is on the same playing field. Like, oh, momentum is stopped. It's not stopped. It doesn't matter because now we're basically playing 4 quarters. Like, just get used to it. That's how it's going to be. But then all of a sudden you're just like, oh, actually, it's not how it's going to be for this one match. And what happens if that's the semifinals? Do you do it? Do you not do it? Like, it, I don't know. I just don't like the way FIFA is running things at times. It's very
look,
frustrating with, like, they just make decisions whenever they want to make decisions.
the reality is I don't mind that, because the reality is the example they should be taking from this actually is cricket. Cricket's a sport that has drinks breaks in every format. It has lunch, tea breaks, innings breaks, all sorts of things fixed in that are supposed to occur, give or take, within a certain period of time. However, the umpires have discretion at different moments of time of, well, we're supposed to take lunch, but the one team is 9 wickets down and the match is probably going to end in the next 10 minutes. So you know what? We won't take lunch. We're going to extend this session by a little bit so that the match finishes, because we're not going to waste everyone's fucking time. Go and have a half an hour lunch break, come back, bowl one ball, and then the guy gets out and it's game over. That's the type, and where that doesn't bother. I think that's fine in terms of the pragmatism shown there in the France Iraq match. But where you didn't see any pragmatism yet was yesterday in the England game, when they had the clash of heads between Reece James and the Ghanaian player. I think it was Jordan Ayew, and that happened 90 seconds before
Yeah.
the hydration break was supposed to take part. The players basically went into a hydration break. Then the referee, 90 seconds into that, decided, no, this isn't the hydration break. All of you, get away from your coaches. You can't receive coaching during the match. It's like, that's where you should use a little bit of common sense. And either you have to have one or two solutions. Either you drag the two players receiving head treatments, like concussion protocols, off the pitch so that the game can continue, or you are sensible enough and pragmatic enough to say, you know what, it's 2 minutes early technically, but we're just going to have the hydration break now so that we don't waste time twice. Like, that's where. And I know after the match they were speaking on British TV, and Joe Hart was kind of defending that, because he was saying, like, once you allow a little bit of flexibility, people are then going to start to take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So you have a player go down hurt to try and get the hydration break. I mean, fair enough, but that's where a referee can have a bit of common sense. This was a clash of heads that required serious attention for two players. This isn't a player claiming to have hurt their ankle or hurt their knee, because there you just go get off the pitch. When we've seen last episode you and I spoke about the inconsistency in the officiating. Up until this point, I actually think we've seen referees be really good on the get up, get on with it, or get off. Like those are your choices. Yesterday, that referee was kind of all over the place. With the
Awful.
hydration break thing, and then there was a moment when Kane the Ghanaian defender cut across him. Kane sort of hit him in the back. The Ghanaian player went down. The goalkeeper went to kick the ball out, which we don't do anymore. Like
Yeah.
that's old football. We don't do that. And then the referee stopped the match. Why? Like we the whole point is he's not supposed to receive treatment unless you're booking Kane. You haven't even given a foul. So why are you stopping the match for him? You don't think it's a head injury. You think he's just hurt his back. So it's not something that requires immediate medical attention. And that's where you just go. And I do think there's been a certain issue with some of these officials that they feel like they're trying to be the center of attention a little bit with the little announcements. And that guy had to look like he was wearing 1980s shoulder pads in his.
Why was he wearing shoulder pads? Eddie, to the point where I even midway through was on my phone typing, is this ref wearing shoulder pads into my Yahoo search?
He was either wearing like 80s style shoulder pads like you would have done if he was a stand-up comedian doing his like open mic set in 1986, or thought he was James Dean and he rolled a couple packets of cigarettes into the outside of his sleeves, and maybe the hydration break was going to unroll it and hand it out to some players to feel extra cool. But I don't know what was going on with him. But
yeah, well, we talked about officiating kind of being a little inconsistent, just in general, just the way some refs were letting play go and not calling fouls. Other refs were calling everything. I think you saw it a lot yesterday in the differences of the matches. I mean, the match before England, there was a lot of fouls being called, and then you came to this match, and it looked like at first it was kind of a like he's gonna let them play kind of match. Like it looked like a lot was kind of just being let go, but then like he in himself became inconsistent where like he was making some calls where players like weren't even touched and he was calling fouls. And then other times players were clearly fouled and weren't. You have the two potential penalties that we'll probably get to. Neither of them were called. Like it was,
one
he was
penalty
just,
and one potential red card. You're talking about the
yes.
Pickford one, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
It was outside
sorry.
the box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it was, he was all that ref was all over the place. That was a very poorly officiated match.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that as an England supporter. I'm saying that both ways.
Oh
like
yeah.
I think both teams should feel undone by that.
I think Ghana had the biggest mistake, the biggest bad decision go against them, because I think that was a stonewall penalty. And so they can feel rightly aggrieved that they didn't get a penalty. And also Konsa then should be sent off because he's denying a clear goal scoring opportunity. So, they should feel like 3 points has, sort of been taken away from them from that decision.
Potential.
Yeah. England, though, I think over the course of the 90 minutes had more sort of little decisions go against them and a lot of attacks that were, and especially I think Marcus Rashford, I don't know, that referee must have hated him because the moment Rashford stepped onto the pitch, everything Rashford did. There was one moment that Rashford, all he did was jump 2.5 feet above the other guy and won a header, and somehow he gave away a free kick.
What was that? How is that a penalty? Or not a foul? How is that a foul?
He didn't use him for leverage, which is the thing you kind of think at first because he's so far ahead above him that you think, okay, he's kind of pushed down. It's like no, he just outjumped him, and on the way down has made contact with him because the guy sort of stepped underneath him as he's not attempting to win the ball. If anything, the Ghanaian defender has fouled Rashford because he's sort of endangered
preventing
Rashford
him from landing.
But then and you just had Rashford time and time again sort of throwing his hands up and looking towards the heavens. But it wasn't a good match all around. Ghana defended very, very well, but I think the officiating was poor and the play from both teams overall was not great either.
So let me throw some questions out at you then as we kind of dive a little deeper into the England match. Why couldn't England score? Why do you think?
Well, I'll be really trendy and modern and talk about the low block, which is a term that didn't exist when I was younger, and now everyone speaks about the low block all the time. But I mean, fundamentally, Ghana put 11 men behind the ball and gave England very little space. And the way England are set up, which is, with the decisions that Tuchel has taken to have pace around Kane, they took England's strengths away from them, and they asked England the difficult question of, can you pick us apart? And the longer the game stayed 0-0, the more confidence Ghana gained. And, certainly in the second half, they posed a bit more of an attacking threat. First half, they basically just sat back and did absolutely nothing. And I mean, I'm sure that's their game plan. That's what Carlos Queiroz would have drawn up of, let's get it to 60 minutes, 70 minutes, and then maybe take a few more risks. But yeah, look, I think there's been an overreaction from England fans and the English media to, oh my God, that was bad. That felt like the worst of Southgate. We were uncreative. We were desperately missing players like Palmer and Foden who can pick,
Get in those tight spaces.
Yeah, and that, fair enough. Maybe we were. But the thing is, that's not the type of team England are building its team to win a World Cup against. Like, yes, that's a slightly disappointing performance. And yes, they might face similar tactics in the last sort of the first two knockout rounds, possibly, depending on who their opponents are. Like, yes, you might play someone like Mexico, who then now takes the Ghana game plan and does that. But realistically, Tuchel was putting a squad together of how do we beat Spain, France, Germany, Brazil, Argentina, Portugal, not how do we beat Ghana. And you can't, with the way World Cup squads go, you probably can't put together a squad that does both as efficiently as you might want it to. And so I think you got a lot of people suddenly, we had the highs of the post-Croatia, and now it's the lows of the post-Ghana. I spoke about it when we were in London, and you weren't with us at the time, but when Spain drew with Cape Verde, I was with Jake, and we were saying, could you imagine if this were England? Could you imagine the reaction that would be coming from a 0-0 draw against Cape Verde? Just oh my God, we cannot win the World Cup. We are screwed. That was awful. And no one said that about Spain in the English media. I don't know about it in the Spanish media. In the English media, it was, maybe they aren't quite as good as we thought they were, but that was just a blip. They'll be back to being really good. Them drawing against Cape Verde doesn't mean that they're going to be easier to beat in the semifinal. Yet when it's England, it's, oh no, we've got massive problems because we drew with Ghana, a team significantly better than Cape Verde. So I think can't overreact to it. Realistically, yeah, probably Ghana exposed some of England's weaknesses. I do think Tuchel should have made changes faster. Now, he's not really going to change the system because that's the squad that he's built. But I think you saw noticeable improvements as Saka came on, Rashford came on. I don't think Bellingham was bad, but I think Rodgers was better than Bellingham was. I think he was more dynamic. And
at least in that match.
Yeah. And I think O'Reilly was also a useful impact.
Yes.
I mean, he nearly scored, but, and I think
O'Reilly needs to be in the starting 11 from now on. I think he's earned it. I think he played well the first match, and then when he came on the second match, I thought he played well. I thought he improved the kind of pressure that England were putting on.
And look, I think the reality is we know that the best England 11, that if England make it through the quarterfinals and semifinals, the starting 11 for England will almost certainly include Rashford and Saka. Like, Saka is getting rested because of his Achilles injury. Rashford, I'm less certain as to why Gordon still started today. I think it was probably a little bit of like,
done.
I think it was a bit like, we did quite well in the last game, so I need to give you the chance to do well again. It would be weird to chop and change, but I would assume against Panama, we will see Rashford and Saka starting. And especially if I were Tuchel, you'd think this could be we could score 4 or 5 against Panama. So I need to start the players I want to play in the next round, because the last thing I want is Gordon to score like a hat trick in the first half and create, and like suddenly create problems for me of like, how can I drop him now? But no, I don't think England were terrible. I think there's a little bit of an overreaction to kind of what we saw.
Yeah, I definitely think I like Anthony Gordon. I have nothing against him. But every time now Rashford has come on, the pace picks up, the pressure picks up, the chances are better. Like, I think you have to put Rashford in starting at least Panama and see how it goes. Right? I think Rashford has deserved the chance to start and see how that goes. And maybe it's more of just a game plan England have where they don't want to play to that side. And if that's the case, then maybe it won't matter who starts there. But I think Rashford at least deserves his chance to
Oh,
show
I mean,
that he should be in the starting 11.
the BBC was highlighting it throughout the match, right? But you could see it just Tuchel just gesticulating toward that left-hand side. There was a huge amount of frustration on his part with Spence and with Gordon. And I think the problem with Gordon and Madueke is they're both quite one-dimensional players. Both Saka and Rashford are much more complete players in that they can beat you on the outside. They also offer something cutting in. And so I think they pose bigger problems for fullbacks. I think for Ghana, probably 15, 20 minutes to win in the match, they probably thought, okay, we kind of know what's coming at us now. Like it doesn't mean that we're absolutely guaranteed to stop it, but we've seen the moves. And so now we just need to keep doing what we're doing. Whereas I think once Rashford and Saka came on, and to a degree even Rodgers, it was okay, now I'm a defender and I don't know which way they're going. I don't know what space they're going to occupy. So I need to be a lot more switched on. I can't just sort of be as confident in terms of, like you were almost allowing Ghana for 70 minutes of that match to defend in a sort of proactive way. And then for the final 20 minutes, they had to be reactive. And that's when I think you saw the switch to England creating a little bit more. But again, I don't think it was like a catastrophic performance. And to highlight that, obviously they made a big deal post-match that England have now drawn their second match of major tournaments, 4 tournaments in a row.
Yeah.
And of those, they've gone to the final in 2 of them, and they went to the semifinal in the other. So that alone should indicate that it isn't, the end of the world. But you also look back of the last World Cup winners. Argentina lost to Saudi Arabia in the opening match of the 2022 World Cup. They went on to win the World Cup. Yeah. Spain in 2010 drew with New Zealand in the group stages, went on to win the World Cup. Italy in 2006 only actually outright won 5 of their. The last team to actually just win all 7 matches on the way to winning the World Cup is Brazil in 2002. It's a phenomenally rare achievement.
And now it's another match. Now it's 8.
Now it's 8. So yeah, it's not cause for too much concern. And also Ghana are not like complete pushovers. Again, people can kind of speak about them in a dismissive way. They're not amazing. They have probably one player kind of approaching world class in Semenyo. He's in the discussion there, I would say.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the others are sort of well-established players, lots of them in big sides and big leagues.
A few of the, I guess, pivotal moments were the no penalty. To me, that's a penalty.
Oh, I think it might be.
And I'll just say, if it's not a direct penalty, I don't know how VAR doesn't step in. It was so quick. Like
it might be the most obvious penalty of the World Cup so far. I genuinely mean that. Like,
yeah.
I watched in real time, and then because he's sort of done that weird thing that defenders do sometimes that I hate, where they sort of throw themselves in the air and they have this intention of kind of coming down onto the ball, which the margin for error is so huge. I don't know why you would ever attempt it, but like you kind of see it, and then because. To be honest with you, I think the thing that really helped Konsa and England in general is that the players in the Ghanaian attacking player kind of didn't react as if it was a penalty. None of the teammates did. They sort of reacted as if like, oh, that was a really big missed chance. But there was no massive appeals for the penalty. The offside then gets given for the sort of the ensuing action after the initial tackle. And so it was very surprising as the replay got shown. And even the commentators at the time on the BBC certainly they didn't react to it as if that might be a penalty coming. So It was sort of bizarre. And yeah, I think it's a terrible decision. It was an absolute stonewall penalty.
Yeah. Yeah. I watched it a few times, after it happened. And at first I was trying to see when does his leg touch the player that causes the player to then stumble. And when you watch that, there's not as much contact as you think. But then when you actually watch it again, it's not because his leg or his foot touch. It's because, like you said, he just jumps in the air and his entire ass and backside just
Yeah.
smash into the player. That's what causes the player to fall. So, like, if at first, I guess if you see it, it's like, oh, there's not much contact at the feet as you think. Like, he probably was just weak on his feet and fell. But then when you watch it again, it's like, oh no, he actually fell because he got fucking hip checked by the defender. Like, that's the reason he fell. And to me, that's a definite, like, he just jumps in the air and hip checks him.
Yeah, I mean, it might be why the attacking player didn't react in the way that he did, because he may have thought that it was a sort of body, just like shoulder to shoulder issue, and Constance just sort of got in front of him. But that's not at all what's happened. I mean, you're not allowed to do that by just throwing yourself in front of the
Yeah.
attacking player, unless unless you then get the ball, which he never gets the ball. So yeah, I mean, it's a terrible decision. I mean, I guess the only one that I've seen so far this World Cup that comes even remotely close was the Mbappe, when that wasn't a penalty in France's opening match against Senegal. I mean, those are the kind of only two that really stand out as absolutely horrific refereeing decisions. But I think this one's worse, to be honest.
Yeah. And then the Pickford, what did you think of that one?
I think that was the correct decision.
I think they said that the player was also offside too, so it wouldn't have
Regardless of
mattered.
that, I think Pickford is lucky because he doesn't do anything and he kind of chickens out of the challenge fundamentally, but as does the Ghanaian attacking player. And
Yeah,
Pickford
yeah,
actually is at that point kind of holding his position. Like it's not as if Pickford has to then morph out of the direction of the Ghanaian player. He sort of chickens out of going for the ball. The Ghanaian player also does get chickens out of going for the ball. Neither of them get close to the ball, and it's the Ghanaian attacking player who just clatters into Pickford. So I think that's probably the right decision. I think especially with the way you see goalkeepers protected, that
yeah.
would have been an unusual one to say that he had fouled the attacking player. So I think that one was probably that one. Had you given it the other way, would I have said it was awful? No, I could kind of see the logic behind it because Pickford's made no attempt to win the ball and then has obstructed the player. But I think the argument would be at the moment in which they've had a clash, the Ghanaian attacking player is no longer in possession of the ball. So it's just him wildly running into a goalkeeper fundamentally at that point. And, I think that's probably the right call.
And then I guess my last talking point, uh, towards the end of the match, obviously O'Reilly hits the post, and then the ball comes back to Kane, and Kane has a golden opportunity and hits it over the bar. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's a really bad miss. I mean, it's a surprising one. It feels like I've seen Kane score that exact goal 100 times in his career, sort of that exact type of finish. I just think you write it off as an anomaly. I wouldn't read too much into it. I have seen some, again, overreaction from English press, English fans saying, can we trust Harry Kane in big moments? He lets England down at crucial times.
Yeah.
Are we classifying a late opportunity against Ghana in the group stages as suddenly a big moment for a player who's played in three three semifinals, two finals for England? Is that what we're saying is now this goes into the big category? I wouldn't say so, but
How many anomaly misses does he get? He missed a big penalty last time. Now he's missing this.
yeah, look, the reason if you're in the really anti-Kane camp, it's that he got lucky with the penalty against Croatia, that he got to retake that. It wasn't a great first
Yep.
penalty. And then he played extremely well for the remainder of the match against Croatia and scored a very good header. And then yesterday he did not a lot. But I
Not a
think
lot.
to be honest with you, that's the version of England where Kane gets so much criticism. But I don't think, aside from the miss, I don't know what to blame for Kane. They had opportunities to whip the ball into the box. They almost never delivered a good ball. And fundamentally, like, that's what they needed to be doing. And they just couldn't execute from those wide positions. So, like, that's not Kane's fault. I don't think he was guilty of the thing that he's sometimes done of just dropping too deep in search of the ball. I mean, he dropped deep at times, but nothing where you weren't watching Kane pick the ball up off Konsa or anything like extreme like that. We've seen sometimes in previous tournaments. So It's a bad miss, but bad misses happen. I mean, you know, they happen. I blame Sam. Sam was directly behind the goal. He probably saw Sam's little head right as he went to strike the ball. Just was terribly off put by the glint in Sam's little eyes, and he lost all concentration and blazed the ball over the bar. Maybe he was aiming directly for Sam. He was like, "Oh fuck, I gotta get that guy out of here," and and that's what he was trying to do.
He might have hit Sam.
Couldn't have been far off. You put it this way, he was probably closer to hitting Sam than he was to actually scoring. So, but yeah, I mean, look, and this is again, England benefit tremendously. I complained last episode about how the switch to the head-to-head over goal difference has removed some of the drama from the final matches, and this is a perfect example of this, right? Like, England will feel confident that the most likely outcome of Croatia-Ghana is a draw or maybe Croatia winning. And so as a result of that, England will know that any win against Panama almost certainly sees them top the group, but also that, yes, if they beat Panama by 3 or 4 goals, which they should feel as if they're capable of doing, that will be better than even if Ghana are to beat Croatia, that Ghana are probably not beating Croatia by 3 or 4. So it's removed the possibility of sort of Croatia now pipping England to top spot in that group, which under the previous format would have been very much a live possibility. So, England benefit from that. They're almost certainly through, barring some freakish sequence of events that see them not finish as one of the top 8 third-place finishers, even if things were to go catastrophically wrong in the final match. So no reason for too much panic. And I did like that in the post-match. I watched quite a bit of the sort of post-match breakdown of the
I did
BBC
as well.
yesterday. And Rooney kept saying they're through to the next round. And everyone else kept saying, not mathematically. And then Rooney every time was like, I mean, they're through to the next round, so it's not that big of a deal. And then they're not through yet. It's like, I mean, they are.
They are.
They may even technically be through. Like if you actually play out what the other results would have to be to kind of force them out of being one of the third place finishers. But
I mean, right now, the 8th place, 3rd place has 1 point.
Yeah. So I think the sequence of events might be actually impossible. But even if it isn't impossible, it's so phenomenally unlikely. They are through to the next round. The other big story, obviously, yesterday was Ronaldo's return to form for Portugal against the mighty Uzbekistan, a team that I obviously talked up pre-tournament because I scouted them during the 2024 Summer Olympics. They didn't bring the best version of themselves yesterday. Ronaldo scored a nice first goal. That's a good finish. Certainly if we kind of compare the quality of finish between Ronaldo and Kane in those, Ronaldo did much better.
Keep in mind, the first match, Ronaldo missed 7 of those chances. So
what I loved about Ronaldo is he just couldn't help himself. He scored that goal and he went and celebrated with his teammates. He didn't do the Sue at first, which was surprising. Then he did it after the celebration with his teammates had finished. Fair enough. But that showed like a little bit of, humility, focus on the team thing.
No.
Then when the second goal is scored, which, look, he did a good acting job on the free kick being taken. He celebrated that free kick as if it had been just a master stroke by him. And yeah, he played a big part in that everyone on Earth, I think, thought he was about to take that free kick. But I just it was so funny. He did a little sort of ballerina twirl as it went in, and then he actually ran off by himself to sort of celebrate whilst everyone else went in the opposite direction. And then, obviously proclaimed to the cameras at the end that he's back.
Yeah. Yeah. That's just not a good look. Like, on the heels of watching Messi and Argentina dominate, and just the way that I think Messi acts when he scores, and you can tell he's part of that team. And like,
can we? Dude, I think Messi
gets so.
I think you saw, like, for example, Messi, he scored a goal the other day where you had Argentinian players like falling over themselves to not take chances and pass the ball to Messi. I feel like the Argentina team desperately wants Messi. Like, they want to win, but they want Messi to look good as they win. I think Portugal don't give a fuck about how good Ronaldo looks, and they are just begrudgingly accepting that he's too big of a personality to not be playing. I'd
But isn't that
like
isn't that kind of indicative of the player though? Because he I agree with you. I do agree with you. But what I take from that is that Messi has so much respect from his players because they are like a team and together that they're willing to like constantly give him chances to like give him his great send off, out of the World Cup. And to me, that's indicative of a player that the team likes and bonds with the team versus Ronaldo. I don't think Portugal give a fuck about Ronaldo because all he
I
cares about is himself.
I think they like no, I think they actually do, and I actually think when you see a lot of the clips, I think Ronaldo's probably a better teammate. I think he's a little bit more like, I think back obviously, Portugal's most successful moment, you contrast it and the whole, Ronaldo getting injured in the final of Euro 2016 and being there, like, kicking every ball as he was on crutches and then hyping up every player as they were going to take penalties and telling them, like, "You are gonna take this penalty. You are gonna score. Like, you were here for this moment." I don't think there's a version of Messi that does any of that. I think he just sits meekly on the bench, sort of staring off into the distance. And in a sense, right, we have this contrast between these two players. And I'm about to say something that is a little controversial, but we kind of have the two leading forms of men at the version. You either have a tiny autistic man or you have the toxic masculinity of the manosphere. And those are like the two options that you have to choose from between Messi and Ronaldo. And I think that's a little harsh on Ronaldo. I don't actually think that's harsh on Messi because I think that Ronaldo has like a very empathetic, like sort of element to him at different moments in time. But I do think the difference is I think Argentina exist for Messi at this stage. They're this team. This is all they're there for. They through 2022 and beyond now. It is as long as Messi is here, let's just make Messi look extra special. Whereas I think the rest of the Portuguese players think to themselves, like, we're approaching, I mean, it's hard to say this is the Portugal's golden generation compared to say like the early 2000s, but it's getting pretty close in terms of talent levels. And so I think for them, it's, yeah, we like Ronaldo and we want him to do well, but there's a huge amount of talent in this side, and we're going toe to toe with anyone with or without Ronaldo. So we need it. Yeah, we're happy to see him doing well. And I think the players responded to his opening goal as if they all felt a collective weight off their shoulders if Ronaldo has scored. But the difference there, I think the Argentina players, if you told them, could Messi score 15 goals and you lose in the final, they'd probably go, "Oh my God, what an amazing achievement for us." Whereas I think if you told the Portuguese players Ronaldo breaks his leg in the next match, but you go on to win the World Cup, they go, "Yeah, we're perfectly fine with that." Like, we're here to have team success, and he's part of that, but he's not the reason why we're here.
I 100% agree with you. But again, I think that to my point is that like they don't really care about Ronaldo because he's just not that great of a teammate. Like the I'm back also just really bothers me. Like what is he back from? From the criticism that all the other big players scored in the first round and he didn't? Like shouldn't he be more concerned that they didn't get a fucking win in the first round when they were heavily favored? Shouldn't it be we're back? Like don't worry about us. We're fine. Just like how we say, oh, England drew against Ghana. Don't worry about it. Like they'll be okay. It's not like Kane's going to go out the next match and score that goal and say like, "Oh, I'm back. Oh, I'm back." He's not going to say that
Oh,
because he
maybe he
doesn't
needs
care
to.
about scoring.
Yeah, he definitely cares. Look, I've leveled the criticism of the England team in previous tournaments, and that's why we said like Bellingham or Palmer, like it's a lot of ego to take, but maybe you need that ego in your side in order to win. You need someone who thinks I'm the main character here, and like Jude Bellingham thinks that, Cole Palmer definitely thinks that, Cristiano Ronaldo undoubtedly thinks that, and he is most of the time the main character. So it's sort of it's like did I love him saying I'm back? No. However, will he have been very aware of the post-mortem of Portugal's opening match was, should Ronaldo still be playing? Is Ronaldo past his best? Is Ronaldo the reason why Portugal didn't win? Even though, I didn't watch that Portugal game and think Ronaldo was the problem. I think they just all played badly, Ronaldo included, but I don't think he was any worse than any of his teammates. So I think you would have kind of, if I'd been Ronaldo and I'd soaked in all that press, he would have gone, uh-oh, if we lose, I'm gonna be to blame to lose. No, if we lose, I'm the one to blame no matter what I do, probably. Well, and I don't think that's the case with Messi. Messi has reached such a status in terms of his place within how people think of his legacy and also how the media likes him, even though he does nothing. He doesn't give interviews. He doesn't speak. He doesn't give us any like insight into what his life is like. He has the charisma of a sponge. You know, like all he is incredibly good at football, which that's what he's paid to do, or that's what he's showing up to do now. So like that's the most important thing. But like football isn't the global game if you have just thousands of Messi playing. You need you need like some Ronaldos there to really capture the imagination of people by being more than just great at dribbling a ball and, you know, dancing around people at moments in time.
I agree with you because I mean we're talking about Ronaldo and not Messi at this point.
Yeah,
But
I mean, look, I mean, no, it says a lot, right? Messi's top goal scorer in the competition. We've basically never mentioned him in the podcast, this episode, last episode, ever, other than, hey, Messi scored. Like, you know, but I don't know. It's, I hope we get Ronaldo versus Messi in the quarterfinal. I think that's where we said that they likely would meet up when we did the thing. And I hope Ronaldo just fucking drop kicks Messi into another dimension. And that's sort of how that's, that's how their rivalry comes to an end.
I like that you defined them as more than humans, and then you clearly took the side that everyone thought you would take.
Oh, oh, I like both of them. I like both of them. I'll be honest with you. I actually think Ronaldo comes across to me as a nicer person. He has a lot of ego around him, and I think that's difficult to deal with. But I actually think you see his
Oh
interactions with
man, come
fans.
on! If
No, I
this
think
were
he's
the other way, you think the person who goes to Saudi Arabia and takes all the money to play is the nicer person? You think the person who does the Piers Morgan interview and says a lot of outrageous things in that interview?
yeah, look, yeah, do I judge Ronaldo from going to Saudi Arabia on both ethical and professional for professional reasons? 100%. But do I, you know, do I think Messi is whiter than white? I mean, he's takes sponsorship deals from just as many Middle Eastern companies as Ronaldo does. I would love to see what bank transfers may or may not have arrived into his account when he was playing for PSG, you know, so you know that we're definitely emitting bank straight from the Qatari royal family. So, you know, I don't want to make it out as if Ronaldo has made ethical decisions from a professional perspective that, you know, Messi would not have or that are radically different from what Messi has, other than where they've chosen to live. But I just think when you see the little bits of interactions and I to be clear, when I made fun of I say made fun of, when I said that I think Messi is autistic, which I think he probably is, I'm not making fun of that fact. I genuinely think he strikes me as a very socially awkward and we overuse the term autism in today's society, like
He's
everyone's autistic.
neurodivergent.
Yeah, however, yes. And we've spun it into like a weird positive a lot of the time, which kind of strikes me as odd occasionally. But he definitely has. You just see those clips of him like in social settings where he is just frozen, you know, like, and you think about this is a guy who should have, in a lot of respects, all the confidence in the world. And he just like can barely say hello to people and can't make eye contact and stuff. And look, having that level of fame alone must be an incredibly tough thing. Ronaldo obviously seems to have dealt with it maybe a little bit better than Messi has in some ways, but and in some ways hasn't. But yeah. Anyway, I like both of them. I don't dislike either of them. I have no reason to particularly like either one of them. They don't play for the country I support. They've never played for the clubs I support. They've actually both played for clubs that I openly dislike for large parts of their career. So like there's no reason for me to like or dislike one more than the other.
Let's move on to maybe the next, or I'll say the next great striker, but potentially one of the better goal scorers in this current generation moving forward, and Erling Haaland, who is having a great tournament so far, is doing well. Norway are doing well. I really like Haaland. I love his intensity. I like the way he plays, his physicality. The only thing that still kind of bothers me is his body language when he doesn't score or he has a miss. And I don't know if you watched the last match they played, but he had a few times where like he missed a goal he probably should have had or he thinks he should have had. And instead of just still being in the play because the ball is still in play, he like drops to the ground and is like, "Oh, how did I miss this?" But the play's still going on. And he did that 3 separate times in that match where like he completely took himself out of the play for 3, 4 seconds to like openly display how frustrated he was instead of just staying and playing. And that is something that always bothers me about players is like, I get you're frustrated. As soon as the play's over, show your frustration. But like when the play's still going on, just like don't give up. Like you can't score, you can't be perfect every time. But when you're that good, a lot of times whether whatever sport it is, the ball, the puck, it will somehow come back to you and you'll get that second opportunity and then you just drain that second opportunity. Like you look at a lot of great players, that's what happens. They don't score initially, but they get that nice rebound that comes right to them. But like when you're on the ground on your knees, like banging the grass, like it's a little hard to do that. And it's just frustrating to watch. And I know he's young and he's still a great player. I'm not taking that away from him, but it's annoying to me.
Yeah, I mean, look, he scores so many goals. I'm not going to go overboard on criticizing Erling Haaland's approach. And if that's what he needs to do, like, I think that's a complicated one because if that's what he needs to do in order to be the lethal finisher that he is in terms of getting himself reset, reprogrammed, reread the match, like that's a very complicated thing. If you were coaching him to say, maybe you need that. Maybe that's the moment of clarity that you need to get your head back in it so that you're willing to and able to make the next run, be in the right place, for someone who literally exists just to score goals. I mean, that's the different thing, right? He's not there to be really part of large parts of the build-up play or create chances for other people. He's there to be right place, right time, and to score more than he misses. And for all of his career so far, he has done that, including in this World Cup. So I guess that's the tough thing. But yeah, I mean, he's a very likable guy. Talking about like the charisma contrast, how awkward would it be if you just put Messi and Haaland in a room together? I mean, those are those are not only physically two very different. I mean, I think you would come out of that if you put
And
an alien.
Ronaldo.
Yeah, but no, Ronaldo though, I actually don't know who come because Ronaldo and Haaland physically are much more similar to each other. Eh, I think if you took an alien who had never seen humans before and you put them into a room with Haaland and Messi, and then you just like if we had the sort of Darwin from Mars
Oh
arrive
boy.
on our planet, and then and then you just ask them, are these two things the same species? I think they would come out of that saying, "No, no, those are not." Like,
Oh boy.
maybe no, what? I have very clearly chosen 2 white players. I just wanna say there, but
I'm
I
not gonna
think
say anything.
I think you would come away I can live with that comment. I think you would
Okay.
come away feeling as if those are not the same thing. But yeah, and I liked Holland's promo. The interview that he had post match where they asked him about the test coming up against France. I don't know if you saw his comments
Yeah,
there.
awesome. Like
You know,
I genuinely love that. I wish
so
all of America listened to that.
for listeners, he was kind of being probed on like your big test is coming up now. He had been stressing in the interview what a great achievement it was, for Norway to qualify for a World Cup again, and then to have made it through to the knockout stages, and how happy they were. And the interviewer just kind of wanted to say, yeah, but what about the next big match against Mbappe in France? And Holland's response to that was, I don't care, we are through. They'll probably beat us and go on to win the whole tournament. Which I
No,
think
I genuinely really like that comment because
the
and like I get annoyed at the people who will criticize him and say like, "Oh, that's not the attitude you need to have. Like, you got to go in thinking you're gonna win." And like, this is what we've discussed the last podcast at nauseum. Like, you have to also be realistic. Norway have a club where, again, maybe besides Holland and
not a club.
Norway have a team that besides 1 or 2 players besides Holland probably aren't even making the France squad. Like they are just a substantially better put together team at this point. So there's nothing you can take away from that. Like that's just a realistic assessment.
Well, I think it was. I mean, it's kind of tongue in cheek, right? I think what he's fundamentally saying is like, look, the success here is we've qualified for the next round. And actually, the match against France kind of just doesn't matter now. That's really, and so it's more a frustration of why are you asking me about that? The focus is now very much on the next knockout round. So I think it was his way of answering the question and getting them to move on without, like, there's no other answer he could really give other than we don't care what happens in that match because we don't care whether we finish first or second in the group. Like, that would be the only other thing he could say, which people would probably question more. They'd start doing the, like, where, because I will say this, I'm like, I wouldn't put it past Norway beating France. I don't know. It would be interesting to see how much the two teams rest players, and this is where
Yeah.
this changes in the FIFA rules are so stupid because this should be a big match where, especially if we were in the old days of only two teams qualifying, not only should this be a big match because the two teams are then vying for top spot, they would have in the back of their minds, like, if we lose, maybe things could go badly and we could drop to third, depending on what happens elsewhere. And no, you're just in a scenario where both teams are through, doesn't matter, move on. Yeah, I mean, good performance. I think it's a good tournament for Haaland in terms of elevating his status within world football. Like, I do
For
think
sure.
this removes some of the criticism a little bit of him of being the kind of flat track bully of just, well, you play for big teams. You played for Dortmund when you played for Red Bull Salzburg. They were really good in Austria. You played for Dortmund when they were really good and you scored lots of goals in the Bundesliga, but every good forward scores goals in the Bundesliga. And then you went to Manchester City and everyone scores goals for Manchester City and you scored goals. And, like, this is a bigger test. This is, you're going to a World Cup. He is leading the line in more ways than one for Norway and delivering from a performance standpoint and beating teams who you'd say fundamentally are pretty level with Norway and from a talent perspective in a lot of ways.
Now, last talking point for me for the World Cup so far is you're seeing a lot of posts in social media saying that, "Oh my god, this is the greatest World Cup ever so far. This is so amazing. Like, look at how amazing this is. We're seeing Messi score a ton, Haaland score, Ronaldo score. Like, this is so fun." Is it fun watching countries beat up on much smaller countries that probably shouldn't be in a World Cup, but because it's expanded now, you do see it? Is it more fun seeing, I don't know, Argentina beat Curacao by 6 goals versus watching closer matches against 2 good countries, I guess is my question. And I'll throw out the statistic that so far after 2 rounds, there are 17 countries sitting on 1 point or 0 points.
Yeah, which I mean, kind of mathematically sort of has to happen, right? Because either everyone would be on 2 points or some teams have to be on 0 or 1. So, yeah, is it the greatest World Cup ever? No, I don't think so. I think we've had some good games, but I think I don't feel as if we've had. The only thing you could say is that we are at the end of the. There are a lot of players playing in probably their last World Cups, players who are big footballing icons, and they've at least mostly delivered. And that would be, if you'd told the organizers, I mean, okay, Kane fired some blanks yesterday, but realistically, you still got, Messi on what, 5 goals, Haaland on 3 goals. Mbappe has what, 3 goals. Ronaldo has 2 goals. Kane has 2 goals. So you sort of the stars are showing up and scoring goals, and that's the headlines that for a lot of people all that matters. But I don't feel like we've had a lot of actually amazing matches like themselves. I think there've either been a few easy wins, and even the close matches have, for the most part, not been great,
Yeah.
with a couple of exceptions. But it's been a good World Cup. I'm not negative. I don't know why I would say this World Cup was any better than 2014. Like, I'm not going to be 50 years from now. I don't think I'm going to be like, my God, football peaked in 2026 and maybe it'll go, because ultimately a World Cup is defined by what happens in the knockout stages.
Yeah.
Like, and there, you look, the 2022 World Cup is going to be hard to beat in terms of the drama that you had within the final. So if you consider that, that's sort of tough to overcome. And even the drama within the knockout stages, you had the Netherlands-Argentina match with the Netherlands scoring that super late equalizer. You had the knockout stage match between France and England, which was close, and then Kane skies a penalty. You have lots of key moments that come to mind when you think back on that. 2018, the final itself was super flat, but you had the great match between France and Argentina. I mean, it depends where you're from too, because it's 2018. It's England, Colombia penalty shootout, huge. But I don't think if you're a complete neutral, I don't think you're thinking of that one as an absolute classic. But yeah, I don't know. It's been fine. It's been fine. And I haven't criticized the U.S. at all throughout this podcast, so I'll dip my toes into those waters pretty briefly. I think it's wonderful to see in moments when the U.S. has sort of embraced some of the traveling fans, and they've obviously made a big deal about the whole no Scotland, no party stuff in Boston and now moving on to Miami and
boy.
things. I don't like the America's not getting it. Again, I always talk about you don't get the jokes. You're not getting it if you then have the bars in Boston saying "Ooh, we're going to close now for the England fans" and stuff. You don't understand how it's supposed to work, really. And I do think England fans can feel rightly aggrieved that seemingly yesterday after the England match, bars there was much more security in Boston for the England fans than there was for the Scotland fans, and bars were closed earlier than they were, and there was a bigger crackdown. Now I know there is a history of hooliganism within England football fans. Hate to break it to everyone, but there's a lot of history of hooliganism within Scottish football too. So it's not as if it's not, oh my God, what has Scotland ever done to have a fight relating to football? So I think that's a shame because England fans, as far as I'm aware, I've heard no reports of fights or trashing places or destroying bars or anything. Seemingly everything is going smoothly. So you shouldn't, the way to encourage that is to make people feel welcome. As soon as you start to police it, then they will feel like caged animals and they will start trashing places. I promise you, it will happen. But yeah, other than that, it seems like a good World Cup. It does seem fun. You know what I mean? Obviously, we've made fun of Sam. And I got a text message from Jake after the England match finished yesterday where he said, thrilled I have not paid thousands of pounds to watch that. And I think, yep, I probably felt the same way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I do think the overall atmosphere does look pretty good.
I was getting messages and videos from Sam throughout the day, and it looked like a lot of fun.
Didn't send me shit.
Well, you didn't ask. Did you text him and say, how's it going?
No.
There you go. No, it did look like it was a lot of fun, and I think the atmosphere was probably worth it. I mean, maybe the move was to just go and then just not go to the match and just stay at the bar and watch the match at the bar and not pay the $1,200 or £1,000 to watch 0-0 Ghana draw.
Look, like most of the world, I semi-fantasize about the idea of road tripping across the United States. And if timing had been different of this World Cup and circumstances in the United States been slightly different, the temptation there of just to road trip across the U.S., going to different cities, hosting matches, and yeah, maybe never attending an actual match, just soaking in the atmosphere, going to fan parks, and I've benefited from that. Obviously, I've been in France when they hosted the Euros, didn't go to games, but still enjoyed it. When the Olympics were on here, yes, I went to events, but a lot of the times it was just fun being in the city and people being here and doing things. So yeah, I could 100% get that. I did see an interview with an English couple who'd bought an RV in Texas and then were driving to every England game for as long as the tournament went on. And again, unclear whether they had tickets. The only part where their plan became a little odd to me is they were they were driving Dallas up to Boston and then Boston to New York. And then they were going to drive. They knew that probably England's next match was in Atlanta. So then they were going to drive down to Atlanta. And then I think the possibilities are it's either Miami maybe or Mexico City, depending on how. They're not going to drive the RV to Mexico City.
Oh, that's a tough drive. They might not make it.
So then they were going to fly from. Oh, I think the way that played out, I think what they were basically saying is the way it would play out is If England went to Atlanta and won, then they'd go to Mexico City. If they went to Mexico City, then their next match would be Miami, probably. And then so like they would fly Atlanta to Mexico City, then Mexico City to Miami, but then they'd have to make it back up to Atlanta to get the RV back. Like
Yeah,
that's the only bit where it's like,
it's a lot.
that bit kind of sucks. Like maybe you skip the Mexico City part and
Yeah,
just keep living the RV dream.
yeah. Yeah, and I guess it is also just unfortunate, because coming off of that Croatia match, you would have expected that the Ghana match would have been equally as exciting. Um, so it is
Well,
a tough it's
it was
tough.
never going to be as exciting because Croatia are a better team and they were going to give England a go. And this is why people shouldn't overreact because, like, yes, England might fade. Panama are going to sit deep, but Panama are not as good as Ghana. And basically, those games come down to, and we've seen this throughout the tournament. We saw it like Spain, Cape Verde versus Portugal, Uzbekistan. Two contrasting out. If you score in the 5th minute and
Yep.
then get the second goal in the 25th minute, you're in cruise control. And the other team is, yes, going to still be defensive because they don't want to lose by like 10 goals. But at the same time, they have to venture forward a bit more. You kind of get to play the way that you want to play. And, England never were able to find that opening and just allowed Ghana to play without the ball for 100 minutes.
Yeah.
And, you have 75% possession, you should win a match. I mean,
I think it was
it's
the
too
most possession they've ever had in a World Cup match for
it's
England.
believable.
I'm
And
almost
again, it's
positive I
funny,
saw that
right?
on
Because
BBC.
the whole thing is this Tuchel team is built to win with potentially having less possession than the opposition. And then the downside is you go into a match where you're going to have the overwhelming majority of possession and they're maybe not built to win those matches as easily. Still, England have so much quality in their team. Like the people saying like that's why we need Foden or Palmer, like those England still have incredibly gifted players within there. Like you don't think Jude Bellingham can unlock the
Yeah.
Ghanaian back five. Like, come on. I mean, it's just they didn't play particularly well on the day. Had it been a knockout game, I still would have been confident that they would have won that had they absolutely needed to. Um, a little bit scared by the couple times Ghana were able to break forward. That to me is the only negative. Is like as England pushed into the Ghanaian hive, and then you just saw those couple of instances of like, oh my god, suddenly they're 3-on-3, 4-on-4 quite rapidly. That's a little bit of a worry, but the dynamics of their future matches will be totally different.
Okay, then anything non-sports related?
Well, I have a final comment on the media side of things. I've seen more and more clips. Obviously, we discussed a bit the like Thierry Henry, Zlatan Ibrahimovic uh, stuff.
Alexi Lalas.
Yeah, I saw a thing where it was like Zlatan speaking to Tom Brady. Tom Brady's been doing a lot of stuff related to
Been going
this World
around. He
Cup.
was on the was it Take Two, whatever the UK one is with Roy Keane and
Yeah, he's everywhere at the moment.
yeah.
And Zlatan was kind of speaking to him. Hey, I hate calling people by their first name. Ibrahimovic was speaking to him as if, like, well, we're two all-time greats. Like, and it's like, look, Ibrahimovic, you had a really good career, and this is a bit that bothers me even when he's next to Thierry Henry in sort of, and I know he's playing a caricature.
So this real quick, just to cut you off there. Are you sure it's a character? Do
A
you
little bit.
genuinely think he doesn't think he's one of the greatest players of all time?
See, I think he mostly does, and he definitely has a huge ego, but there are moments where it slips. So I also saw a clip of him, he was getting interviewed by Jimmy Kimmel, and Jimmy Kimmel asked him like, "Oh, who's better, Ronaldo or Messi?" And Ibrahimovic actually gave this like really genuine, honest answer, which was, actually, I think when you have two greats like that, it's really hard. It's sort of who's in better form at any one moment in time, rather than who's the better player of all time, kind of thing. And Jimmy Kimmel said something like, "That's not the answer we expected from Zlatan." And then he was like, "Oh, you want me to give the Zlatan answer?" And he was like, "Yeah, who's better?" And then he went, "Zlatan." And it's like, why? He's actually in that moment, he's actually giving you real insights. And instead, you want him to just fucking be Borat, basically. Like that's what you're just like roll him in for a little bit of comic relief. So I do think it's a mixture. And look, he does genuinely funny things. You know, I was speaking to I still think when LeBron James sent him that jersey when he went to LA and he signed it and sent it back to LeBron James, I think that's like one of the fucking funniest things an athlete has ever done. Like that's that's like such an amazingly brilliant little funny thing to do. And so I think that's the difference is he has genuine humor. But I do think at times, and TV forces you to do this, is sort of you put everyone on the same level almost. And it's like Thierry Henry is way above the other two of you. Ibrahimovic is way above Alexi Lalas.
So that's what I was going to ask, though. So I think if you asked him, is he better than Messi or Ronaldo? I think he says no. But do you think he genuinely thinks he is either just as good or if not better than Thierry Henry?
So
I
he
think
said,
he
I mean,
does.
they put him under a lie detector test. They did that bit, and he said he was better than Thierry Henry. I think he probably believes that.
Genuinely believes it.
But, and look, he was a very good player, but he spent most of his career, and he played on great teams and on huge teams, and like covered the span of European football. You know, like every major aside from Germany. You know, like played biggest clubs in Italy, biggest clubs in Spain, biggest clubs in France, biggest clubs in England. It's a wonderful career and has some iconic goals and was a type of player like exceptionally unique, just in his size, the acrobatic goals he scored, the kind of way he controlled a football. Could you argue that in some ways, like he's maybe more talented than Thierry Henry? I think that's where it would be a tough thing to ask him. Like, how are you saying better? Because you could convince me that he's sort of a more footballing talented person than Thierry Henry, and Thierry Henry just had remarkable pace in the early part of his career. Plus, just like, I mean, I don't want to downplay Thierry Henry's capabilities, but you know what I mean? Like, there are players where you could say, like, is true footballing talent, is he better? Like, possibly. But Thierry Henry is never swapping careers with Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And part of that's unfortunate for Ibrahimovic. He's Swedish, so some of the things that Thierry Henry achieved on the international stage, not possible for a player from Sweden. So like winning World Cups, winning the Euros, okay, that's not going to happen for Ibrahimovic. But you're like, Thierry Henry was the star player for the majority of his career on some outstanding teams. Ibrahimovic, for the majority of his career, was not the star player, and at times was completely unwanted. Like, he was pushed out of Barcelona. You know, he burnt bridges pretty much every club he went to eventually. And it was only in the latter stages of his career, really, when he went to PSG and then was able to thrive against kind of a subpar opposition for the most part, and then kind of build the persona that he then took to Manchester United, and everyone kind of fell in love with the like Zlatan stuff. But yeah, I mean, I know I've gone on for a long time there, but I do feel like the Tom Brady thing irked me more because you're like, that's the most successful quarterback.
Oh, but you didn't really even get into what your argument, what you were angry about.
Oh, they were kind of just talking and sharing, like, did you get nervous in these moments? Did you think, I think at one moment Zlatan asked him, like, did you think about your achievements during your career? And Tom Brady says, like, no, during it, no. It's only since I've retired that I've really thought about what I achieved. When I was playing, all I thought about was playing and winning and stuff. And Zlatan's like, yeah, me too. It's sort of, I mean, you can't compare what you've achieved in terms of Tom Brady would have realistically, midway through his career, said, I am one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, and I have a chance to go down as the greatest quarterback of all time if I win one or two more Super Bowls. Ibrahimovic would have had that conversation within his own head, you know, and it just felt a little bit off from that perspective. And it feels like he's kind of being shoehorned in. And I guess what bothers me is like when it's the American media approach versus the British one too. I think when I watch the guys on British TV, there is so much humility amongst all of them. Like, kind of the idea is you're sort of checking your ego when you walk into the studio. And yes, you've got like Roy Keane, who's a grumpy fuck and kind of criticizes the main game, but he also doesn't speak about himself as if, well, I'm one of the greatest modern midfielders of all time. I won 11 Premier Leagues, champion.
You never really hear him say like, if that were me, we win that match. He's not saying that.
He'll be critical of modern players and be like, I don't like this. I would have never done that. More in terms of behavior than actual play. But, and same, Gary Neville, you know, like they treat Gary Neville as if
he's awful.
He's like
they treat Gary Neville as if he's like, He's like your shitty cousin who is, like, never got over 4 foot tall and, like, you would throw in at the end of, like, local like, your, like, Halloween or Halloween, your Thanksgiving
Yeah,
pickup football game, you know what I mean? Like, the way they talk to him is so degrading about how, like, you think he sucks.
yeah, and look, again, he would openly admit, going back to that talent conversation, yeah, he was a right back. Is he as footballing, like, as gifted as a lot of the other players who sit in those studios? No. But, I mean, he's the greatest English right back of all time. He the greatest Premier League right back of all time in terms of, like, success and legacy. The best? Probably not, but, I mean, he kinda gets treated a little bit like Kenny Smith gets treated in the NBA studio of like, yeah, you won 2 NBA titles, but you just got lucky that you're playing with Hakeem Olajuwon for a while, like, whereas Gary Neville was part of that whole generation of Manchester United players that came through and contributed to the building of that culture and then stayed in it and thrived within it for 2 decades. It's a very different thing, but yeah, he speaks about himself as if I'm lucky to be here. Just little old me managed to eke out a career at the very top of this game for 20 seasons and, win whatever it was, 11 Premier Leagues, whatever he won over the course of his career, 2 Champions Leagues, represent England, 70 times or however many caps he probably got over, it's and that's what bothers me. I kind of switch sometimes between the two and I see more clips of the US, the Fox stuff and there it's like a dick measuring competition that's going on in the studio at all times, and then you cut back to, like, ITV or BBC, and it's guys almost forgetting that they were good footballers and just speaking about the games that they're watching.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's funny, you even see it from Wayne Rooney because I think, you said you watched the BBC after, and he was on a lot talking, and I think once or twice they asked him, like, "What would you have done? Like, how would you have done this?" And I feel like if that were the American one, he would have been like, "Oh, all I would have done is I would have done this, and I think I would have easily scored." Where he was like, I don't know, like, I'm not playing, so it's a completely different." Like he was like very humble
Yeah.
about like it's like, why do you care what I would have done? Like I'm not playing, I'm not the one out there. It's just a different mentality, I think, in the in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, and I saw to similarly contrast it, I saw a thing where Rooney was asked to sort of compare himself and Kane, and who's better
I
at
saw
this,
that
who's
as well.
better
Yeah.
at that. Rooney, by any objective measure, was a more talented footballer than Harry Kane. And young Wayne Rooney is one of the greatest young players to have ever played football. Now, he didn't age super well, so the back end of his career is not as good as the back end of Harry Kane's career, but it's a sort of longevity versus prime comparison. I think there's no doubt that Wayne Rooney was a better player and a much more like in the end, Wayne Rooney was sort of hurt by how good of a footballer he was because he was more versatile. And so over the course of his career, played a number of different positions, both for England and Manchester United. And had he been like a little bit more limited in the way that Harry Kane is, he's probably a more successful footballer because he just plays the same position, does the same thing, scores more goals. But yeah, he was giving genuine answers of like, I was probably better than that, and quite reasoned answers of early in my career, I was probably the better finisher, but then Harry Kane now is definitely the better finisher than I was in my
Yeah.
30s. Like it was a very honest thing. You asked Zlatan that same thing, it would have just been me, 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 me. If you find that interesting, good for you. Like if that's the media you like to consume is just a huge ego versus I find it much more interesting to have someone with a bit of humility and like Wayne Rooney kind of both processing his own career and then comparing that to a player like you got Harry Kane who was not that amazing for long periods and then has had a stable but meteoric rise and you were burst onto the scene at 16 years old were one of the best players in the world for the first 10 years of your career and then kind of gradually tailed off. And which one of those is better? And which one would you have rather had? Like, that's a really interesting conversation. And it'd be interesting to have with him. And for the American listeners, I guess in some ways it's almost like comparing, like Ibrahimovic is it's almost like a Tom Brady versus Aaron Rodgers comparison in a way of
Ooh,
like,
is it? Because
no, no,
but
I
Aaron
don't.
Rodgers has won like MVPs and Super Bowls. Like
Yeah, but Ibrahimovic has won things. You know what I mean? So I
what?
don't want to, I don't. Well, league titles in multiple leagues. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, he's won a
But in
lot.
regards to being like the best player,
No, I know, but American, it's hard to do American, as we kind of touched on in the last, because you don't have sports with multiple divisions and stuff. So we got to kind of, but what I meant in that is like everyone, I think most people would say Aaron Rodgers is a more talented quarterback than Tom Brady in terms of physical abilities, in terms of arm, in terms of just sort of raw. Like if you were just scouting them, which one of those do you think is the better player? I think throughout their careers, it would have been Aaron Rodgers time and time again. But then ultimately, who was better? It's undoubtedly Tom Brady. Who would you trust more in a big scenario? It's undoubtedly Tom Brady. Who won more? Brady. Who had a better career? Brady. So like you have that difference there between. Maybe if you ask Aaron Rodgers, like deep down inside, you think Aaron Rodgers says, I'm a better quarterback than Tom Brady, like a more talented quarterback. I think he probably would say yes.
yeah.
And he's
What about
probably
Philip
right.
Rivers?
That's a good one. Probably more talented than Brady.
I think that's a closer one. If I actually had to be
Yeah, that
honest.
might be a little like personality, like cult of personality kind of playing a part in it. But yeah, like Rivers is probably like a more raw, talented, you know what I mean? Like, and maybe Rivers would tell you, like, hey, if I'd ended up under Bill Belichick with the Patriots, I would have won a few Super Bowls too. Stars didn't align for me in quite the same way. And that's an interesting contrast too, right? Because Ibrahimovic famously, because Ibrahimovic might say that. He might say, oh, if I'd been at Arsenal and had been under Wenger and been in that wonderful era of Arsenal in the late 90s, early 2000s, then maybe my career resembles Thierry Henry's in that I'm a club icon and I win multiple Premier Leagues and maybe a Champions League with Arsenal and I really establish myself. But then he famously Arsenal offered him a trial when he was at Ajax. And he said, Zlatan doesn't do trials. And so that move never materialized. So even at a young age, his ego was big enough to get in the way of his own career. Any other sporting topics to discuss?
I don't think so.
Any non-sporting topics to discuss?
Uh, well, I did watch the first episode of House of the Dragon, but I know you probably didn't.
I did not know. I'm getting inundated with press from it, but I have not given in.
Yeah, so
And that's the most damning indictment I could say of House of the Dragon. I think I actually enjoy watching the cast interact with each other more in like press junkets than I do actually watching them act their characters out on screen. Because they do all seem like quite nice people and they're sort of quite funny and they seem to like each other. So there's lots of like funny elements coming out of how they talk about either themselves or their careers or making the show. And then I remember, and it tempts me. And then I remember, no, it's fucking awful. Like I can't make myself do it. I'll just
well,
watch them in other shows.
Eddie, I don't know. The first episode, kind of right up your alley. It was a heavy pirate themed episode.
Nice. But
Heavy on the open seas.
I don't know. Fantasy pirates don't scratch the itch quite for me, quite in the same way as like Black Sails does. I'd rather just go and rewatch Black Sails than make myself sit through a season in the hope that there's more pirates in House of the Dragon. But look, I'll tell you what, I will watch that when you have completed every season of From.
Every season.
Yeah, it's only season 4. When you've caught up on From, when we're going like season 5 of From is coming out and we're ready to talk about it, the internet is just exploding with talking about what's going to happen. Who's the man in yellow? What's going on with this character? Is it a dream? Are they in comas? Are they dead?
Oh.
Who knows what's going on? It's Lost 2.0.
Spoken like a true person who never watched Lost.
It's Lost 2.0 and you are missing out, except this time we've been promised an ending. We've been promised that
You
the
got
beginning.
an ending in Lost. Great ending in Lost.
From the beginning, they had a plan in mind and they're sticking to it. It's just
All right.
taking an incredibly long time to materialize.
All right. Anything else?
No. Did get shouted at this morning on my dog walk.
Oh, dog shit, and you didn't pick it up.
Oh, I always pick up. I'm very good on that front, but
So
wasn't even
you
pooping.
shit and didn't pick it up.
Threw it at the woman. Then she shouted at me. I didn't understand why. No, just like I mean, you've seen my like the building I live in, and there's kind of some communal garden space, and there's some people who live in the building who feel like that communal garden space exists to not be used. That it is just there to be looked at and to make the
Mm,
building look pretty. They fall and they tend to be older people.
mhm.
And I took this morning because obviously it's very hot, so to have to do things early or late and sort of try and get some activities out. And even in the morning, it's still really warm. And so I took her out to just a little space, the kind of closed in communal garden space that we have just like up the road. And a woman told me that I should not have my dog there and that she's seen me with my dog there before and that this is not a space for dogs. And that she would be reporting me for having my dog there. And I asked her why she cared and what difference does it make to her life, and that my dog is not going to the bathroom. My dog is literally chewing a stick, laying on some grass. So, why is this causing you so many issues at 8 in the morning? And yeah, she
What was her
wasn't.
answer?
See, this is actually what frustrated me is like, look, I understand you're living in an apartment. There's some give and take, and people want different things. I have no problem with that. Some people don't like dogs. So I'm aware of the fact that there's some people in our building, for example, who are scared of dogs. And I'm always then very sort of try and, I'm not going to say she's friendly, don't worry. Like I'll be like, no, no, this person's scared of dogs and she's going to get excited when she sees people and stuff. I can't communicate to her that the person's afraid. And as with all animals, they kind of feed off that energy. It almost makes them want to interact with the person
Yeah.
more. Because that person's doing like the worst thing possible in terms of not making a dog come towards them. But that's fine. But and I'm not going to let the dog I'm not going to let her like off the lead in the communal spaces then because of stuff like that. But it was like I told her I was like, if you want to explain to me why you don't think the dog should be here, I'm happy to listen and try and understand. But she was just like, it can't be here. It's not allowed. And just kind of kept walking as I was trying to say, like, just explain it to me. I don't understand. I don't know where the rules are. I don't know why she's not allowed to be here. She's not doing anything. I understand, like, if you thought she's going to the bathroom on this grass that we pay to be maintained, fine. That's annoying. But she's not. She's chewing a stick and playing with a
Yeah.
ball. Like, she doesn't shit herself every time she walks. Well, some people are just grumpy and miserable.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I don't get people sometimes. It's crazy. The things people choose to like stand up for sometimes is just so weird.
I never get it because look, I'm a person who has lots of opinions on lots of things I see. Like there's lots of times I watch someone do something and be like, that's the stupidest thing I've seen today, or like that person's an idiot. That's annoying. But I don't actually let it consume me to the point that I would engage with them. And I
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't be the like, you shouldn't do that. Because it's like, what difference does it make? Like, and literally that's why I said, like, what difference is this making to you? If you can explain to me how this is inconveniencing you or affecting you, then I'm very happy to change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And that isn't like I'll let my dog run wild and piss and shit everywhere because what difference does it make to you? Like it's literally just a dog sitting on some grass and I'm trying to understand why that matters to you. Like I can't wrap my head around it. And I don't know where we draw the line then. Because that's like me saying, hey, I live in this building and I don't have kids. And some kids go out and play like hide and seek in the communal space at times. And it's really fucking annoying. I have to listen to them yell. I have to listen to them yell and enjoy themselves. And I'm working. I'm on a call. And there's these like, little kids having a great time at a period in their lives where they don't have to worry about jobs and making money and paying bills. Like it's really dragging my day down. And I would like them to be confined to their rooms.
Well, that's what's wrong with the world nowadays because 100 years ago, they would have to be worrying about bringing in income even at that age.
But this is
Go
also the
back to
funny
those
thing too.
times.
Because some of the same people who have complained about the dog have complained about the kids playing outside. And what I love about that is I bet you those are the same old people who, if I set them down and be like, you know what's wrong with the world today? Kids don't play outside. They're glued to their phones. They play video games. They don't get out and do things. And then when a kid goes and plays outside their door, just playing tag or kicking a ball around, like they're not vandalizing anything. They're literally like 7-year-olds running around playing hide and seek. It's like, God, don't do that on my lawn. You're bothering me. Like, but then if you sat them down later in the day, it's like, that's what was great when I was a kid. We played till the lights came on, and then we went home and had dinner, and our parents never had to worry about us, and the doors were never locked, and no one ever bothered us, and we all looked out for each other, and the world was just a nicer place.
What a great anti-boomer rant in a boomer voice.
And I want to say there's plenty of old people in the building who just love her. So it's not as if it's not anti-old people. It's just anti a handful of old people.
All right. Well, with that, I think we'll call it a day.
Sounds
Talk
good.
to you later.
See ya.
Cheerio.